Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing Rebound Relationship Timeline. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Check out my socials for extra content. The links are in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing Rebound Relationship Timeline. So if you've been through a breakup, you might have heard of rebound relationships. Perhaps your ex is in one. Maybe you're in one. Maybe you were in one. So what are they all about? In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 points of a rebound relationship timeline. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is soon and fast. So when we look at what defines a rebound relationship, the first 2 elements are soon and fast. Soon being how soon somebody has got into a new relationship since a prior one ended. Now, what is soon? Well, this is where people will have their differing perspectives. But my suggestion is that when we consider a rebound relationship, soon should constitute as days, weeks, or months, but certainly not years. So if you, for instance, were in a relationship which sadly ended, and then you find out that your ex has got into a new relationship, and it was only a few weeks after you broke up, I would say that that is certainly a red flag that they could be moving into a rebound relationship. Similarly, if it was only a few days after your relationship ended. But I would also suggest, even if it was a number of months post-breakup, this could also be seen as a red flag. In my opinion, if you get into a relationship before a year of your prior relationship ending, you are certainly potentially moving into a rebound relationship. And it's something that has to be considered because of what a rebound relationship can represent. And we'll be discussing that as we move through today's podcast. Now, something that I would define in my own opinion is that if you were to find out that your partner was cheating on you and then instantly moved into a fully functioning relationship, which is known to the world post-breakup, I do not count that as a rebound relationship because, unfortunately, this relationship was going on during your relationship. It sounds very painful to say and to consider, but just to clarify that point, my own opinion is if you found out your ex was cheating on you during your relationship and then instantaneously came out and said, hey, look, I'm in a new relationship with this new person, maybe a couple of weeks later, you know the truth. You know that sadly you were being cheated on. I don't count that as a rebound relationship. This is a relationship which was already going on during your relationship. So I do believe that is different. Even if it becomes publicly announced in the days, weeks, or months post your breakup ending, I don't think that is a traditional rebound relationship because it had began possibly months, maybe even years beforehand. Very, very unfortunately. But that is the soon. So what is the fast? Well, the fast is that another element of rebound relationships is that they move very, very fast. So whether you believe your ex is now in a rebound relationship, whether you believe you are in a rebound relationship right now, or maybe you're half wondering if your relationship which has just ended was actually a rebound relationship. Was you someone's rebound and this has now sadly ended? Well, if you're looking for a red flag, fast is something to look for. And that is because rebound relationships move very quickly. So if we consider what a relationship generally looks like, it's that people are getting to know one another and then they will start to get closer and then build into something which is much more official. Okay, at that point, people can see how a relationship has developed, whether you were getting to know each other in person, online. It would then naturally move into a number of dates generally before you might become exclusive, and then the pace of your relationship is still likely to be fairly steady. For instance, you are not likely to be going on holiday or vacation in the days, weeks, or early months of your new relationship. That is unlikely. Now, if you were in a rebound relationship, that is very possible. And there is the point. Rebound relationships move very, very quickly. They go at super speed. So if you find out that your ex, soon after your relationship has ended, is with someone else, and they're already going on holiday or vacation, you're thinking, wait a minute, when I was with my ex, we didn't go away anywhere for nearly a year. We didn't go anywhere more than a year later. We didn't go anywhere for a very long time. And yet they're now going on, even if it's just a weekend away, they're going away somewhere with this new person, and they've only been together what seems like a matter of weeks, maybe a couple of months. If that is the case, that is a red flag of a rebound relationship, because this is moving very, very quickly. Now that might sound pretty scary. However, that is probably the least of the scary options when we consider the speed of a rebound relationship, because it's not just about going on vacation together. Rebound relationships can also take more serious turns at super speed. Sometimes a rebound relationship will be announced to the world as, not only do I have this new partner, but guess what? We're actually already engaged. That is because some people will get engaged at a ridiculously fast pace. Often people don't get engaged for years, and yet you might find that your ex, or maybe even yourself, if you was within a rebound relationship, are getting engaged within a matter of weeks or months of knowing this new person. Now, connected to that, sometimes this next part would come before or after. Either way, it's far too fast for a relationship to likely function long term, and that is two people living together. Again, in a traditional relationship, you are not likely to live with one another for quite a while. Some people will still not want to live with one another until they get married, although that is less likely nowadays. Even if you aren't going to wait before you get married, before you live with one another, you are likely to wait a good chunk of time, probably more than a year, before you do live with one another. That is because people want to be fully sure that this is right for them. That is what naturally we seem to see now. I would say at quickest, people in a traditional sense probably wouldn't want to live with one another until at least 9 months or so down the line. If you're doing it before that, you have to ask yourself a question: do you really know that person enough? Now, some of you might say, well, I lived with someone after just a few months and it worked really well for X amount of time, but then again, now we are no longer together, so did it actually work? And that is what you need to ask yourself, okay? Because generally, relationships which last the test of time are not people who have lived together within a matter of weeks or early months during their relationship. They normally wait a much longer chunk of time. So if you find out your ex, or if you yourself have started to live with someone new in a matter of weeks or months after your relationship began, that is super speed. Similarly to if you got engaged quickly, similarly to if you went on holiday much sooner than average. They are the examples I like to give about the speed, about how fast something can seem to everyone, and therefore it is a rebound relationship red flag. So point number one, when we're talking about the rebound relationship timeline, first of all, it's soon and fast. So now let's get into point number two and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And point number two is getting to know each other. So eventually, people in a rebound relationship will have to get to know each other. They can't just go at rocket speed through their relationship without actually starting to understand who they are, who each person is within this connection. What is my personality regarding your personality? This takes time. This can't be cheated. This can't go through super speed. So even though you may have already gone on a vacation, even though you may have already moved in with one another, or perhaps you were already engaged, until you've been dating for a certain amount of time, you are not going to really know one another. Now, I know there is the argument that you only really get to know someone when you do live with them. Now, there is merit to that argument, but there is also common sense that even if you aren't living with one another, If you are meeting up 2-3 times a week, if you're having phone calls, if you are having a regular relationship experience, you will of course get to know someone better than if after just a few weeks you move in with them. Okay, you're not going to know them that soon, even if you've moved in. It's going to take that time. And whether you do it slowly with dating or whether you move in really quickly, ultimately you can't cheat the amount of time that you will need to spend with one another to actually understand who you are as people. More importantly, and this is where a lot of people fall short of their predictions of how long it will take to get to know one another, is that you have to go through life experiences, because we only really know what somebody is like when we see them under different life situations, pressures, stress, things which take time to showcase. So let me give a quick example. If you decide to be taking a more regular approach to dating, maybe you're meeting 2-3 times a week, but you haven't yet moved in with one another until you've been together a year, okay? So it's 2-3 times a week, but it's over a year. During that time, you will go through different things, different external factors to do with family, to do with work, to do with lifestyle. You will likely see the best and worst of each other. Okay, you're not living in each other's pockets, but you will still get a feeling of how your partner actually acts and feels and behaves during certain pressures on their life, because you've been dating for a year. You have seen, you have heard, you have felt, you know what's going on in their life, you know how they are reacting. Now, let's compare that to two people who move in with one another within a month. Now, you might say, okay, well, they've moved in with one another, so they will get to know each other quicker, and therefore, after a couple of months of living with one another, they will know each other much better than the couple who were just dating for a year. Now, although living together is, of course, going to give you an insight into different elements of a relationship, what it doesn't do is give you the benefit of time. Let's just say in that first couple of months, everything in your life and your partner's life is going really well. Work is not stressful. There are no external factors causing problems. You are not going to be seeing your partner under the scrutiny of life. And there's the difference. Because if you're dating for a year without living together, you will see your partner during the good and the bad, during the moments where they're at their best and at their worst. Whereas if you are living with one another for a couple of months, you might not even get to see different angles. You might never see your partner upset, angry, or stressed, because coincidentally, nothing externally has affected them. So there you can see the problems of rushing a relationship. And when we consider rebound relationships and the timeline, is that eventually they do need to get to know one another. You can't cheat it, because eventually that time and those moments will happen. So even if you've gone on holiday together, even if you've lived with one another, even if you are engaged, eventually that time will start to tick by where certain external factors take place, and you will then see what your partner is really like, and they will see what you are really like. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is realization. And this is the final part and point of the rebound relationship timeline. And that's the realization. So you've rushed the relationship. You've got to the point of where you have to genuinely understand who each other are. And then you get to that realization that most of the time, a rebound relationship will consist of two people who are not compatible. And the reason for this is because it's very hard to find a long-term compatible person. It's very difficult to find someone that you want to live with forevermore. This is why if you move out of one relationship and then into another relationship very quickly, the likelihood, the statistical probability of you moving from one compatible long-term person to another long-term compatible person is so slim that it's likely to not be the case. It often takes more than a year, if not years, to find another new long-term compatible person to be your partner. And that is why the realization of people going through this rebound relationship generally means that a rebound will end as suddenly as it began. The way that it exploded onto the scene, the way that two people got together with at least one person trying to chase the feelings that they are missing from their prior relationship, and therefore trying to rush this new relationship to the point of where they left their prior, even though their prior relationship was probably years long. And they're just trying to get to that point of, well, I want to live with someone. I want to go on holiday with someone. I want to be married to someone. So let's just get this really, really quickly back to that point that I was at with my prior partner. You can't do that. Because if you do that, you are likely rushing with someone who is incompatible. And once you really start to get to know them and they really start to get to know you, the likelihood is the realization will kick in that you aren't compatible. And the relationship will end very suddenly. There will likely be almost an explosive end, just as there was an explosive beginning. And this is the rebound relationship timeline. It starts really quickly, it burns through very quickly, and it ends in explosion.